A millionaire is approached by a little boy in the street who says, "My mother sees your picture every night and then cries." He was completely paralyzed when he heard this and decided to find out who this woman was. When he saw her, he almost fainted. If this story interested you, subscribe to our channel, don't forget to like this video, and tell us which city you're watching us from. We'll keep going. Alexander Pierce adjusted his designer tie as he wandered through the unfamiliar streets of Eastside, far from his usual haunts of luxury penthouses and corporate boardrooms. The summer heat pressed against him, making his tailored suit feel more like a burden than the armor it usually represented. His footsteps echoed against the cracked sidewalk, each step taking him further from the world he knew, a world that lately felt as hollow as the empty coffee cup he'd been carrying for the last 3 blocks. The past few months had been a blur of crisis meetings and sleepless nights. His investment firm had barely weathered a series of catastrophic decisions that had cost them millions. The press had been relentless, and his board of directors even more so. But it wasn't the financial loss that kept him awake at night. It was the growing emptiness that seemed to expand with each passing day. Pierce wiped the sweat from his brow, realizing he had no idea where he was going. The modest neighborhood around him was a far cry from his usual surroundings, with its small convenience stores, local laundromats, and children playing in sprinklers on tiny front lawns. He found himself envying their simple joy, remembering a time when his own happiness wasn't measured in stock prices and profit margins. A small convenience store caught his eye, its faded awning offering shelter from the relentless sun. As he approached, movement in his peripheral vision made him turn. A young boy, no more than 10 years old, sat on the curb, his worn sneakers and threadbare t-shirt telling a story of economic struggle. But it was the boy's eyes that caught Pierce's attention. They were old eyes, filled with a wisdom that seemed out of place on such a young face. The boy's gaze locked onto Pierce with an intensity that made him want to look away. But before he could, the child spoke words that stopped him in his tracks. "My mom looks at your picture every night, and then she cries." Pierce felt as if someone had knocked the wind out of him. He stood frozen, his mind racing to make sense of the boy's words. The child's face showed no sign of deception or play, only a serious, almost accusatory expression that demanded attention. "What did you say?" Pierce managed to ask, his voice barely above a whisper. The boy stood up slowly, brushing dust from his pants with careful deliberation. His movements were measured as if he were performing a ritual he had practiced many times. "You heard me," he replied, his young voice carrying a weight that seemed to fill the space between them. "Every night she takes out your picture, stares at it for hours and cries." Pierce's mind raced through possibilities. Who was this boy's mother? How did she have his picture? Why would she cry over it? He had appeared in countless magazines and newspapers over the years, but this felt different, more personal, more painful. The boy turned and walked toward the convenience store, his steps unhurried but purposeful. Pierce found himself following, drawn by an invisible thread of curiosity and something else, something that felt like destiny. Inside the store, the air conditioning offered little relief from the heat that now seemed to come from within Pierce's own chest. He watched as the boy carefully counted out coins from a worn plastic bag, exchanging them for a loaf of bread. The careful way he handled each penny spoke of lessons learned too young about the value of money. "Who is your mother?" Pierce asked, his voice stronger now, but still tentative. "Why does she have my picture?" The boy turned to face him, clutching the bread against his chest like a shield. His eyes searched Pierce's face as if looking for something specific, recognition, perhaps, or remorse. "Her name is Sarah," the boy said finally. "Sarah Matthews. She used to be Sarah Collins before." The name hit Pierce like a physical blow. Sarah Collins. Images flooded his mind. A young woman with auburn hair and a camera-shy smile, summer evenings in Central Park, promises made under starlit skies. But those memories were from another lifetime. Before his rise to wealth and power, before the choices that had shaped his current existence. "And you're?" Pierce couldn't finish the question. "I'm Tommy," the boy replied. "And you're the man who broke my mom's heart." Pierce leaned against a nearby shelf, barely noticing the packages of cookies that shifted under his weight. Sarah Collins. The last time he had seen her was 12 years ago, on what should have been the happiest day of their lives. Instead, it had become a day of chaos, misunderstandings, and ultimately, separation. Tommy watched him process this information, his young face showing a maturity beyond his years. "She never stopped loving you, you know," he said quietly, "even after everything that happened with David." The name David sent another shock through Pierce's system. David Russell had been his best friend, a talented photographer who had captured the early days of his and Sarah's relationship. David, who had been there the day everything fell apart. Tommy's words about David hung in the air of the small convenience store, mixing with the hum of the refrigerators and the distant sound of traffic. Pierce felt his carefully constructed world beginning to crack around the edges. He hadn't allowed himself to think about David Russell in years, had pushed away the guilt and the questions that came with those memories. "What do you know about David?" Pierce asked, his voice barely steady. He watched as Tommy carefully placed his bread in a worn backpack, each movement deliberate and practiced. "Mom keeps his pictures too," Tommy replied, zipping his backpack with care. "She has a whole box of them, pictures he took of you and her, of the three of you together. She said he was the best photographer she ever knew, that he could capture the soul in people's eyes." Pierce remembered that about David, his uncanny ability to find the truth in his subjects, to capture moments that revealed everything. It had been both his gift and, perhaps, his curse. "The last picture," Tommy continued, his voice dropping to almost a whisper, "the one he wanted to show you. Mom says it was the most important one he ever took, but you never saw it." Pierce felt his throat tighten. The last picture. He remembered that day with painful clarity. David calling him repeatedly, insisting they needed to meet, that he had something crucial to show him. But Pierce had been busy, wrapped up in a major business deal that would cement his rise to power. He had brushed David off, told him it could wait. It couldn't wait. "Your mother," Pierce began, then paused to clear his throat. "How is she?" Tommy's expression hardened slightly. "She works 2 jobs now, the flower shop during the day and she cleans offices at night. Sometimes she's so tired she falls asleep in her clothes, but she never complains. She just keeps going." Each word felt like an accusation. Pierce thought of his penthouse apartment, his collection of luxury cars, the millions in his bank accounts. All of it suddenly seemed meaningless. "When she looks at your pictures," Tommy continued, "she talks to them sometimes. She asks why you disappeared, why you never came back after what happened to David. She thinks you didn't care enough to even say goodbye." Pierce wanted to defend himself, to explain that he had tried to find her after David's accident, that he had sent people to look for her. But the words died in his throat. Had he really tried hard enough? Or had he allowed himself to be consumed by his ambition, using the chaos of that time as an excuse to move forward without looking back? "Where do you live?" Pierce asked, the question coming out before he could stop himself. Tommy hesitated, studying Pierce's face. "Why do you want to know?" "Because..." Pierce paused, searching for the right words. "Because maybe it's time. I stopped running from the past." A small smile flickered across Tommy's face. Not the carefree smile of a child, but the knowing expression of someone who had seen too much too young. "Mom would never forgive me if I just told you, but..." He reached into his backpack and pulled out a crumpled piece of paper and a stubby pencil. He wrote something quickly, then held out the paper. "This is where Mom works during the day, the flower shop. If you really want to face the past, that's where you'll find it." Pierce took the paper with trembling fingers. The address was in a modest neighborhood not far from where they stood. He knew the area. He drove past it sometimes on his way to board meetings, barely noticing the small businesses that lined the streets. "Why are you helping me?" Pierce asked, genuinely curious. Tommy shouldered his backpack, his young face serious. "Because Mom deserves answers. And because..." He paused, looking down at his worn sneakers. "Because sometimes when she looks at your picture, she smiles before she cries. Like she's remembering something good before all the sad stuff comes back." The boy turned to leave, then stopped at the door. "Mr. Pierce, that last picture David took, Mom says it changed everything. She says it's the reason she can't hate you, even though sometimes she wants to." With those words, Tommy pushed, opened the door and stepped out into the summer heat, leaving Pierce standing alone in the cool air of the convenience store, holding a piece of paper that felt heavier than any business contract he'd ever signed. Through the store window, he watched Tommy disappear down the street, his small figure growing smaller until he turned a corner and vanished from sight. Pierce looked down at the address in his hand, the messy, childish scrawl pointing him toward a confrontation 12 years in the making. Sarah Collins. The woman he had loved, the woman he had lost, the woman who looked at his picture every night and cried. And somewhere in this story was David's last photograph, an image he had never seen, a truth he had never faced, a message he had been too busy to receive on that fateful day when everything changed. The following morning, Pierce found himself parked across the street from Blooming Hearts, the small flower shop where Sarah worked. His usual confidence had abandoned him, replaced by a nervous energy he hadn't felt in years. The modest storefront, with its cheerful display of sunflowers and roses, seemed to mock the expensive interior of his Mercedes. He'd spent a sleepless night after his encounter with Tommy, memories flooding back with unexpected clarity. Sarah's laugh, the way she used to scrunch her nose when concentrating, her passion for photography that had drawn her to David's work in the first place, and David, his oldest friend, the one person who had known him before wealth and success, had reshaped his identity. A movement inside the shop caught his attention. Through the large front window, he saw a woman arranging flowers, her auburn hair touched with strands of silver that hadn't been there 12 years ago. Sarah. Even from this distance, he could see that time had been gentle with her, adding character rather than age to her features. Pierce gripped the steering wheel tighter, his knuckles turning white. What right did he have to walk back into her life? Tommy's words echoed in his mind. "She looks at your picture every night and cries." The thought of Sarah holding on to such pain for all these years made his chest ache. Finally, gathering what courage he could find, Pierce stepped out of his car. The morning air was already thick with humidity, and he felt sweat beginning to form under his collar. As he approached the shop, the scent of flowers grew stronger, mixing with memories of other times, other places. The bell above the door chimed as he entered, and Sarah looked up from her work. The bouquet she had been arranging slipped from her hands, scattering roses across the counter. Time seemed to freeze as their eyes met. "Alex?" Her voice was barely a whisper, a mix of disbelief and something else, fear perhaps, or anger carefully contained. "Hello, Sarah." The words felt inadequate, but they were all he could manage. She stared at him for a long moment, her hands gripping the edge of the counter. "Tommy told me he saw you yesterday. I didn't believe him at first. I thought..." She shook her head. "I don't know what I thought." Pierce took a step forward, then stopped as Sarah tensed. "I should have come sooner. I should have..." 12 years, she cut him off, her voice gaining strength. 12 years of silence, Alex. Do you have any idea what that did to me? To us? The plural caught his attention. "Tommy," he said softly. "He's... How old is he?" Sarah's laugh was sharp, bitter. "He's 11. And before you ask, no, he's not yours. He's David's." The revelation hit Pierce like a physical blow. He steadied himself against a display of orchids, careful not to disturb the delicate flowers. "David's? But you and he were never..." "It was after you disappeared," Sarah said, turning away to gather the scattered roses. "After everything fell apart. David was there for me, Alex. He helped me pick up the pieces when you vanished without a trace." Pierce watched her hands move among the flowers, noticed how they trembled slightly despite her controlled voice. "I tried to find you, Sarah. After David's accident, I sent people to look for you, but you'd gone. Your apartment was empty, your phone disconnected." "Because I thought you were gone," the words burst from her with unexpected force. "David told me. That last day he said he had something to show you. A photograph that would change everything. He was so excited, so sure it would make things right. She placed the roses carefully in a vase, each movement precise despite her obvious agitation. But then the accident happened and you disappeared, and I thought you were gone too. What was in the photograph, Sarah? Pierce asked, though part of him feared the answer. She looked at him then, really looked at him, and he saw the weight of years in her eyes. I don't know. David never showed it to me. He said it had to be you who saw it first. And then she stopped, collecting herself. And then everything changed. A customer entered the shop, the cheerful bell creating a jarring contrast to the tension in the air. Sarah straightened, professional mask sliding into place. I have to work, she said quietly. Some of us don't have the luxury of stopping in the middle of the day. Pierce nodded, understanding the dismissal. He pulled a business card from his wallet and placed it on the counter. My personal number is on the back. If you're willing, if you want to talk more. Sarah didn't touch the card, but she didn't brush it away either. Tommy likes to visit the park after school, she said, not looking at him. The one on Maple Street. He sits on the swings and does his homework there. She paused, then added, he has so many questions about his father, about that time, questions I can't answer. Pierce understood what she wasn't saying. Permission to talk to Tommy, to perhaps begin understanding the years he had missed. He turned to leave, then stopped at the door. The photograph, Sarah. Do you still have it? No, she replied, her focus on the customer who was examining a display of lilies. David kept it with him. It was never found after the accident. As Pierce stepped back into the morning heat, his mind was racing. David's last photograph, lost but not forgotten, a message never delivered, a truth never revealed. And now he had a son he had never known about, a boy who carried the legacy of both his father's artistry and his mother's quiet strength. The weight of the past, which had seemed so heavy yesterday, now felt crushing. But as he walked back to his car, Pierce realized something else had changed too. For the first time in years, he felt truly awake, truly present in his own life. The emptiness that had driven him to wander those streets yesterday was still there, but now it had a shape, a reason, a possibility of being filled. That afternoon, Pierce sat in his office, staring unseeing at the Manhattan skyline through his floor-to-ceiling windows. The morning's encounter with Sarah had left him shaken, questioning everything he thought he knew about the past 12 years. David had a son, a bright, perceptive boy who had grown up without his father, carrying only stories and photographs as his inheritance. His assistant's voice crackled through the intercom, announcing his next meeting, but Pierce couldn't focus. Instead, his mind wandered to the last time he had seen David alive. It had been a rushed conversation, David insisting he had something important to show him, something that couldn't wait. But Pierce had been preparing for the biggest deal of his career, too consumed by ambition to spare even an hour for his oldest friend. A knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. Marcus Chen, his head of legal, entered without waiting for a response. Alex, we have a situation, he said, his usually calm demeanor showing signs of stress. Someone's been asking questions about the old Russell portfolio. Pierce's attention snapped back to the present. What kind of questions? About the ownership rights, the transfer of assets after his accident. Marcus placed a folder on Pierce's desk. It seems someone's discovered that David Russell had a safety deposit box we never knew about. The bank's been maintaining it all these years, but now what? Now someone's trying to claim it. They have documentation, proof of relationship. Marcus paused, choosing his next words carefully. It's his son, Alex. David Russell's son is trying to access the box. Pierce leaned back in his chair, the leather creaking softly. Tommy. It had to be Sarah using Tommy's rights as David's heir. But why now? What did she think was in that box? The thing is, Marcus continued, if that box contains what I think, it might... The photographs, Pierce finished, David's last work. Marcus nodded. Including whatever it was he was so desperate to show you that day. Alex, If those photos contain anything about the merger, about how we acquired those properties. That was all legal, Pierce cut in sharply. Every transaction was above board. Legal, yes, but ethical. Marcus raised an eyebrow. You know as well as I do that David had a way of capturing truth in his photographs. If he discovered something during those final days... Pierce stood abruptly, walking to the window. Below, the city sprawled out like a living thing, pulsing with energy and ambition. Somewhere out there, Sarah was working in her flower shop, Tommy was probably at school, and a safety deposit box potentially held secrets he had spent 12 years trying to forget. What do you recommend? He asked, not turning around. We could challenge it, Marcus replied. Tie it up in legal proceedings, the boy's young. We could delay access until he's of age, at least. The suggestion turned Pierce's stomach. More delays, more evasions, more running from the truth. Wasn't that what had brought him to this point? No, he said firmly, turning back to face Marcus. No more delays, let it happen. Alex, be reasonable. Your position, the company's reputation. I said no. Pierce's voice was quiet but final. Whatever's in that box, whatever, David was trying to tell me. It's time I faced it. We'll deal with the consequences, whatever they are. Marcus looked like he wanted to argue further, but something in Pierce's expression stopped him. With a curt nod, he gathered his papers and left the office. Alone again, Pierce pulled out his phone and looked at the number Tommy had given him for the park. His finger hovered over the keypad. The boy would be there after school, Sarah had said. Perhaps it was time to start building bridges instead of walls. A text message interrupted his thoughts. Unknown number, but the content made his blood run cold. I know what was in David's last photograph. Meet me at the old studio. Come alone. Pierce stared at the message, his mind racing. The old studio, David's workspace, abandoned after his accident. He had walked past that building countless times over the years, never having the courage to go inside. Now, it seemed, the past was calling him back. He grabbed his coat, decision made. Whatever truth awaited him at the studio, whatever revelations David's last photograph might contain, he would face them. He owed that much to David, to Sarah, and to Tommy, the boy who had grown up surrounded by photographs and unanswered questions. As he rode the elevator down to the lobby, Pierce couldn't shake the feeling that his carefully constructed world was about to change forever. The empire he had built, the power he had accumulated, none of it seemed to matter compared to the weight of truth and redemption that awaited him. The truth about that last day, about David's accident, about the photograph that could change everything. It was all waiting for him. And this time he wouldn't turn away. This time he would face whatever consequences came with finally confronting the past he had tried so hard to escape. The old photography studio stood like a ghost from the past, its brick facade weathered by years of neglect. Pierce parked his car across the street, studying the building where David had spent countless hours perfecting his craft. The large windows, once sparkling clean to catch the perfect natural light, were now clouded with dust and city grime. His phone buzzed again. Another message from the unknown number. Second floor. The door's open. Pierce took a deep breath, straightened his tie more out of habit than necessity, and crossed the street. The building's entrance still had David's name on it, though the gold lettering had long since faded. The door creaked, open at his touch, releasing a wave of stale air. The lobby was exactly as he remembered it, though layers of dust covered everything. David's award-winning photographs still lined the walls, faces frozen in time, moments of joy and contemplation, captured through his unique lens. Pierce's footsteps echoed as he made his way to the stairs, each step stirring memories of happier times. On the second floor, warm afternoon light filtered through the dirty windows, creating strange shadows among the abandoned photography equipment. Canvas sheets covered most of the furniture, their ghostly shapes adding to the eerie atmosphere. "Hello?" Pierce called out, his voice sounding unnaturally loud in the empty space. "You came." The voice came from behind him, familiar yet unexpected. Pierce turned to find Eleanor Russell, David's sister, emerging from the shadows. She looked older than he remembered, her once vibrant red hair now streaked with grey, but her eyes still held the same intensity that characterized all the Russells. "Eleanor," Pierce said, surprise evident in his voice, "I didn't know you were back in the city." "I never left," she replied, moving to uncover a dusty desk. "I've been watching, waiting, gathering evidence. Did you really think you could hide the truth forever, Alex?" Pierce felt his guard rising. "What truth, Eleanor? What evidence?" She pulled a large envelope from her bag and placed it on the desk. "David wasn't just a photographer, Alex. He was an observer, a chronicler of truth. In the weeks before his accident, he was working on something big, something that involved you and your company." Pierce approached the desk slowly. "The merger. He was documenting the neighborhood transitions for the Historical Society." Eleanor's laugh was bitter. "Is that what you told yourself, that he was just taking pretty pictures of old buildings?" She opened the envelope and spread several photographs across the desk. "Look closer, Alex. Look at what my brother really says." The photographs showed familiar scenes from 12 years ago, the neighborhoods that had been cleared for Pierce's development project, but these weren't the sanitized images that had appeared in press releases. These showed the human cost of progress, elderly residents being evicted, families standing with their belongings on the street, local business owners closing their shops for the last time. "David was always too trusting," Eleanor continued, her voice tight with emotion. "He believed in you. Believed you would do the right thing when he showed you these. He thought you were still the same Alex he'd known all those years, not the corporate shark you'd become." Pierce picked up one of the photographs, studying it closely. He remembered this moment, the day they'd cleared the old Martinez grocery store. He'd told himself it was necessary, that progress required sacrifice, but seeing it through David's lens forced him to confront the reality of what he'd done. "The last photograph," he said quietly. "The one he wanted to show me that day. Do you have it?" Eleanor's expression shifted, a mix of triumph and sadness crossing her face. "No, but I know what it showed. David told me the morning of his accident. He was so excited, thinking it would change everything." She paused, watching Pierce's reaction. "It was proof, Alex. Proof that you knew about the toxic waste under those properties before you sold them to the city for the public housing project." Pierce felt the blood drain from his face. "That's impossible. The environmental surveys were falsified," Eleanor finished. "David found the original reports in one of the abandoned buildings. He photographed everything, the reports, the signatures, the dates, evidence that you knowingly built homes on contaminated land." "I never saw those reports," Pierce protested. But even as he spoke, memories surfaced. Marcus rushing into his office with urgent papers, him waving them away, too focused on closing the deal to read the fine print. "No, you didn't see them," Eleanor agreed, "because you didn't want to see them. Just like you didn't want to see David that day when he tried to show you the truth." Pierce sank into a dusty chair, his mind reeling. The photograph, if David had it with him during the accident. "That's why I contacted you now," Eleanor said, gathering the photographs back into the envelope. "Tommy's claim on David's safety deposit box was approved this morning. Whatever evidence my brother had, whatever truths he documented, they're about to come to light." Pierce looked up at her sharply. "You've been helping Sarah all this time?" "Someone had to look out for them," Eleanor replied. "David loved Sarah, you know, not the way you did, but deeply, as a friend. When he discovered she was pregnant, just days before the accident, he was overjoyed. He thought finally he had a family of his own." The revelation hit Pierce hard. David had known about the baby, had been looking forward to being a father, and then the accident, he said slowly. "Eleanor, you don't think that it wasn't an accident?" She met his gaze steadily. "I don't know, Alex. But I do know that the timing was suspicious. David finding evidence of environmental fraud, his excitement about becoming a father, his urgent need to show you something important, and then suddenly his car goes off the road on a clear day." The implications were staggering. Pierce felt sick to his stomach, remembering Marcus's calm demeanor when he reported David's accident, the way the company's security team had been first on the scene, how quickly everything had been cleaned up and cleared away. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows through the studio windows as Pierce tried to process Eleanor's revelations. Each beam of light seemed to illuminate another piece of the puzzle he'd been avoiding for 12 years. The weight of truth, of consequences, pressed down on him like a physical force. "What do you want from me, Eleanor?" he asked finally, his voice hoarse. She moved to the windows, looking out at the city skyline that had changed so dramatically over the years. "I want justice, Alex. Not just for David, but for all the people your company hurt. The families who lost their homes, the people who got sick from living on contaminated land. They deserve to know the truth." Pierce stood, walking to join her at the window. "If what you're saying is true, if David really had evidence of environmental fraud, why wait 12 years to come forward?" "Because I needed proof that went beyond David's photographs," she replied, turning to face him. "I needed to track down the people who were involved, gather testimonies, build a case that couldn't be buried under corporate lawyers and settlement agreements." She pulled another envelope from her bag, smaller this time. "2 days ago, I received this from an anonymous source inside your company. It's a copy of an internal memo from 12 years ago discussing the contamination reports David found. Your signature is on it. Alex." Pierce took the envelope but didn't open it. He didn't need to. He remembered the memo now, one of hundreds he'd signed during that period. He'd trusted his team, trusted Marcus to handle the details while he focused on the bigger picture. But that trust had come at a terrible price. "Tommy," he said suddenly, "does he know about any of this?" Eleanor's expression softened slightly. "He knows his father was a man who believed in truth, who thought that photographs could change the world. Sarah's protected him from the darker parts of the story, but he's a smart boy. He sees how hard his mother works, how they struggle while you live in luxury." Pierce turned away, shame burning in his chest. "I can make it right," he said. "Compensation, restitution. It's not about money." Eleanor's voice rose sharply. "It's about accountability, about finally facing the consequences of your actions. David believed in you, Alex. Even at the end, he believed that if he could just show you the truth, you would do the right thing." A noise from the stairwell made them both turn. Sarah stood in the doorway, Tommy half hidden behind her. Her face was pale, but her voice was steady when she spoke. "I'm sorry, Eleanor. He followed me when I left work early. He knew something was happening." Eleanor moved quickly to embrace them both. "It's okay, Sarah. Maybe it's better this way. Maybe it's time for all the truth to come out." Tommy stepped forward, his young face serious as he looked at Pierce. "You knew my dad?" he asked. "Really knew him, not just the stories Mom tells?" Pierce felt his throat tighten. "Yes," he managed. "He was the best friend I ever had. And I let him down in the worst possible way." "Mom says he was brave," Tommy continued, "that he always fought for what was right." "He was the bravest person I knew," Pierce agreed. "Braver than I ever was." He looked at Sarah, seeing the years of struggle and sacrifice written in the lines around her eyes. "Your mother is brave too. She's had to be." Sarah met his gaze, and for a moment, he saw a flash of their old connection, the love that had once seemed strong enough to last forever. "The safety deposit box," she said quietly. "We're opening it tomorrow morning. Whatever's inside, whatever David wanted you to see, we'll all know the truth then." Pierce nodded slowly, then made a decision. "I want to tell you everything," he said. "Everything I remember about that time, about the development project, about the day David—" He caught himself glancing at Tommy. "About David's last day. You deserve to know it all before we open that box." Eleanor's eyebrows rose in surprise. "Why now, Alex, after all these years of silence?" "Because David believed in me," Pierce replied, his voice growing stronger. "He believed I would do the right thing when I saw the truth. I failed him then, but I won't fail him now. I won't fail any of you." Tommy moved closer to his mother, taking her hand. "Can we trust him, Mom?" Sarah looked at Pierce for a long moment, studying his face as if searching for traces of the man she had once loved. Finally, she spoke. "Your father always said that everyone deserves a chance to make things right. Even after all these years, even after everything that's happened, I think he would want us to listen." The sun was setting now, casting the studio in shades of gold and shadow. As Pierce began to speak, to unravel the complex web of decisions and consequences that had led them all to this moment, he felt something shift inside him. The emptiness that had haunted him for so long was being filled with something else. Not peace exactly, but perhaps the beginning of redemption. Tomorrow they would open David's safety deposit box and face whatever truths it contained. But tonight, in this space filled with memories and unspoken words, Pierce would finally tell his story. He owed them that much and more. Much more. The bank's fluorescent lights cast a harsh glow over the small group gathered in the safety deposit viewing room. Pierce watched as the bank manager inserted his key, while Sarah held the client key that had been in David's personal effects. Tommy sat between them, his usual energy subdued by the gravity of the moment. Eleanor stood by the door, her camera bag clutched tightly, a habit she'd inherited from her brother. "Are you ready?" Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The question seemed directed at everyone, and no one in particular. Pierce nodded, unable to find his voice. After last night's revelations in the studio, after hours of explaining his role in the development project and his suspicions about what had really happened, this moment felt both inevitable and terrifying. The lock clicked and the manager pulled out the steel box, placing it on the private viewing table before discreetly stepping out of the room. For a moment, no one moved to open it. "I should do it," Tommy said suddenly, his young voice steady. "Dad would want that." Sarah squeezed his shoulder, then nodded. "Go ahead, sweetheart." Tommy's hands trembled slightly as he lifted the lid. Inside, they found several envelopes, each carefully labeled in David's precise handwriting. The largest one was marked simply, "For Alex, the truth." Pierce reached for it, then hesitated, looking at Sarah. She gave a small nod, and he picked up the envelope. It was heavier than he expected, filled with what felt like photographs and documents. "There's one for me too," Tommy said, pulling out an envelope with "For my child" written on it. Sarah's eyes filled with tears as she watched her son hold his father's last message to him. Eleanor moved closer, her professional mask slipping as she spotted an envelope with her name. "He thought of everything," she said softly. "He always did." Pierce opened his envelope carefully, aware that every eye in the room was on him. Inside, he found a letter and several photographs. His hands shook as he unfolded the letter, David's familiar handwriting bringing a rush of memories. "Dear Alex, if you're reading this, something has happened to me. I've arranged for this box to remain sealed until Tommy is old enough to understand. The truth, yes, I know about the baby. Sarah told me just last week and it's changed everything. I'm going to be a father, Alex, and that's made me realize I can't keep quiet about what I've discovered. The photographs enclosed show more than just environmental reports. They show a pattern of corruption that goes deeper than you know. Marcus Chen isn't just your head of legal. He's been working with developers to identify vulnerable properties, manipulating environmental data to drive down prices, then reselling at massive profits once the land is cleared. But here's what you don't know, what I was trying to tell you that day. Marcus has been using your signature, your authority, to approve these deals without your knowledge. I have proof, documentation showing he's been forging your signature on key documents while keeping you distracted with other projects. The last photograph in this envelope is the most important. It shows Marcus meeting with James Conway from the Environmental Protection Agency, exchanging what appears to be payment for falsified reports. The timestamp shows this meeting happened the day before my accident. I know you, Alex. Despite everything, despite how far you've come from the idealistic young man I once knew, I believe you wouldn't knowingly endanger people's lives for profit. That's why I tried so desperately to show you these photographs. I still believe, that you would do the right thing once you knew the truth. If something has happened to me, investigate. Ask questions. The truth may cost you your empire, but it will save your soul. Sarah is carrying my child, a child who will never know their father. I need to know that this child will grow up in a world where truth matters more than profit, where justice can still prevail over power. Do what's right, Alex, not for me, Not even for Sarah and the baby, but for the person you used to be. The person I still believe you can be again. Your friend, always. David. Pierce looked up from the letter to find everyone watching him intently. His hands were shaking as he reached for the photographs, spreading them across the table. There it was, the evidence David had died trying to show him. Marcus Chen, his trusted advisor, his right-hand man, carefully orchestrating a web of corruption that had cost lives, destroyed communities, and ultimately led to David's accident. Oh my God, Eleanor breathed, looking at the photographs. David was right about everything. Sarah had moved to hold Tommy, who was reading his own letter from his father, tears streaming down his face. The boy looked up at Pierce, his eyes filled with a mixture of pain and understanding that seemed far beyond his years. "What are you going to do?" Tommy asked, echoing his father's final question to Pierce. Pierce looked at the photograph of Marcus and Conway, at the evidence of betrayal and corruption that had cost him his best friend, his love, and 12 years of his life. In that moment, he knew exactly what he had to do. The afternoon sun filled Pierce's office as he sat behind his desk, David's photographs spread before him. He'd asked Sarah, Tommy, and Eleanor to meet him there, wanting them to witness what would happen next. They sat in the plush visitor chairs, looking somewhat out of place in the sleek corporate environment. "Mr. Chen is here," his assistant's voice announced through the intercom. "Send him in," Pierce replied, his voice steady despite the turmoil. In his chest. Marcus Chen entered with his usual confident stride, but he faltered slightly upon seeing the unexpected guests. His eyes flickered to the photographs on the desk, and Pierce saw the moment recognition hit him, saw the flash of fear quickly masked by professional composure. "Alex, I wasn't aware you had a meeting scheduled," Marcus said smoothly. "I can come back later." "No," Pierce said firmly. "You need to be here for this." He picked up the photograph of Marcus with James Conway. "Would you like to explain this?" Marcus barely glanced at the image. "I'm not sure what you're implying." "I'm not implying anything," Pierce replied. "I'm asking you directly about your meeting with Conway the day before David Russell's accident. I'm asking about the falsified environmental reports, the forged signatures, the systematic corruption you've been orchestrating for years." A tense silence filled the room. Tommy reached for his mother's hand, while Eleanor quietly pulled out her phone, pressing record. "Alex," Marcus said, his voice low and warning, "think carefully about what you're doing. The implications for the company." "The company?" Pierce stood, his voice rising. "David is gone because he discovered what you were doing. Communities have been poisoned because you falsified environmental reports, and you want to talk about implications for the company." Marcus's facade cracked slightly. "Everything I did was for the benefit of this company, your company. You needed someone to handle the details while you played the visionary. I simply did what was necessary." "Necessary?" Sarah spoke up, her voice trembling with anger. "Was it necessary to arrange my child's father's accident?" Marcus turned to her, his expression hardening. "Ms. Matthews, you're making accusations without any proof." "Actually," Eleanor stepped forward, holding up her phone, "we have proof. David's last photographs, his letter explaining everything, and now your own admission that you did what was necessary. All recorded, all admissible in court." The color drained from Marcus's face as he realized the trap he'd walked into. He reached for his phone, but Pierce was faster. "Security is already on their way up," Pierce said quietly. "Along with representatives from the SEC and the District Attorney's Office. Everything stops now, Marcus." "You'll destroy everything we built," Marcus hissed. "Years of work, billions in assets, all gone because you couldn't let the past stay buried." "No," Pierce replied. "Everything stops because it's the right thing to do, because David believed I would make this choice when I knew the truth, and I won't let him down again." The office door opened, and 2 security guards entered, followed by serious-looking men and women in suits. As Marcus was led away, Pierce turned to Sarah, Tommy, and Eleanor. "This is just the beginning," he said. "There will be investigations, trials, revelations that will shake this company to its core. But I promise you, every family affected by these actions will be made whole. Every community damaged will be restored. Whatever it costs, whatever it takes, I will make this right." Tommy stood up, walking to the window to look out at the city. "Dad would be proud," he said softly. This is what he wanted, for the truth to come out. Sarah joined her son, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Your father believed in justice, in doing what's right no matter the cost. He would be proud of all of us today." Eleanor was reviewing the recording on her phone. "This will help the investigation, but there's still so much to uncover. Years of corruption, dozens of affected properties. And I'll help uncover all of it," Pierce assured them. "No more hiding, no more looking the other way." David gave his life trying to expose the truth. "The least I can do is make sure that truth is finally heard." He walked to his desk and pressed the intercom. "Susan, please cancel all my meetings for the next month and contact our PR team. We need to prepare a press statement about what's happened here today." As the sun began to set over the city, casting long shadows through the office windows, Pierce looked at the small group gathered there. They were an unlikely family, bound together by loss and secrets, but also by the truth that had finally come to light. Tommy turned from the window, his face serious. "What happens now?" he asked. Pierce smiled gently. "Now we do what your father would have wanted. We make things right, one step at a time. No matter how long it takes, no matter what it costs, we make sure justice is served." Sarah met his eyes, and for the first time in years, he saw not pain or anger, but hope. "Together?" she asked. "Together," Pierce confirmed, looking at each of them in turn. "David brought us together for a reason. Now it's up to us to honor his memory by making sure his sacrifice wasn't in vain." As they left the office that evening, Pierce knew that while one chapter of their story had ended, another was just beginning. The road ahead would be difficult, filled with challenges and obstacles, but for the first time in 12 years, he felt truly alive. David had believed in him, had trusted him to do the right thing when he finally saw the truth. Now at last, he would prove that trust was not misplaced. The next few weeks passed in a blur of legal meetings, press conferences, and endless depositions. Pierce's corner office, once a symbol of his power and success, had become a war room for what the media was calling the Russell Revelation. The story had exploded across national news, with headlines screaming about corporate corruption, environmental scandal, and the tragic story of a photographer who had given his life to expose the truth. On this particular morning, Pierce sat across from Jennifer Martinez, a prominent environmental lawyer he'd hired to help manage the restoration efforts. The morning sun streamed through the windows, highlighting the scattered papers and coffee cups that covered his once immaculate desk. "The preliminary reports from the affected sites are worse than we thought," Jennifer said, sliding a thick folder across the desk. "The contamination levels in some areas are off the charts. We're looking at a cleanup effort that could take years." Pierce nodded, rubbing his tired eyes. "Whatever it takes. These communities have suffered enough because of our company's actions. How many families have been affected?" "We've identified over 300 households in the direct impact zones," Jennifer replied. "But the secondary effects, groundwater contamination, air quality issues, could affect thousands more." A knock at the door interrupted them. Sarah entered, looking professional in a simple business suit, a far cry from her usual flower shop attire. Since the revelation, she'd agreed to help coordinate with the affected families, using her personal experience to bridge the gap between the corporate world and the communities that had been harmed. "The first group of families is ready to meet," she said, her voice calm but carrying an undertone of tension. "They're gathering in the conference room." Pierce stood, straightening his tie. "How many?" 27 families, Sarah replied, including the Ramirez family. They lost their daughter to leukemia last year. The doctors suspect it was linked to the contamination. The weight of responsibility pressed down on Pierce's shoulders. Every day brought new stories of lives destroyed, families shattered, all because of decisions made in this very building. He gathered his papers, but Sarah stopped him with a gentle hand on his arm. "Alex," she said softly, "they're scared and angry. They need to see the man, not the CEO. He looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the wisdom that years of struggle had given her. "How do you do it?" he asked. "How do you face them knowing what our actions cost them?" "Because hiding from the truth doesn't make it go away," she answered. "David taught me that. Now, I'm teaching it to Tommy." At the mention of Tommy, Pierce's expression softened. The boy had been spending more time at the office lately, curious about the investigation and his father's role in exposing the truth. He'd set up a small desk in the corner of Pierce's office, doing his homework, while the adults worked through the massive task of making things right. "Speaking of Tommy," Sarah continued, "he found something interesting in David's things. More photographs from before everything happened, or everything. He wants to show them to you later." Before Pierce could respond, his assistant rushed in. "Mr. Pierce, there's a situation downstairs. The press is trying to talk to the families, and some protesters have gathered outside." Jennifer quickly gathered her files. "I'll handle the press. Sarah, can you make sure the families are comfortable and protected from the media circus?" Sarah nodded but turned to Pierce one last time. "Remember what I said. They need to see the man, not the CEO." Left alone in his office, Pierce walked to the window. Below, he could see the crowd growing, their signs demanding justice and accountability. Some called for his arrest, others for the complete dismantling of his company. All of them wanted answers. His phone buzzed. A message from Eleanor. She had been working tirelessly, using her brother's photographs and her own investigative skills to track down more evidence of corruption. Her text was brief but important. "Found Conway, he's ready to talk." James Conway, the EPA official who had helped Marcus Chen cover up the environmental reports. His testimony could blow the case wide open, implicate other corporations, other officials. The ripple effects would be enormous. Pierce's computer chimed with an incoming email. It was from his board of directors, demanding an emergency meeting to discuss the company's future. Several major shareholders were threatening to pull out, and the stock price was in freefall. Everything he had built over the past 2 decades was crumbling. But as he stood there, looking at the chaos his truth-telling had unleashed, Pierce felt something he hadn't experienced in years: peace. Despite the protests, the lawsuits, the potential loss of his fortune, he knew he was finally doing what David had believed he would do, choosing truth over power, justice over profit. A small noise made him turn. Tommy stood in the doorway, holding a manila envelope. "Mum said you might need these," he said, walking over to Pierce's desk. "They're pictures Dad took of you and Mum back when you were all friends, before everything got complicated." Pierce took the envelope, his hands trembling slightly. "Thank you, Tommy. Would you like to look at them with me?" The boy nodded, pulling up a chair. Together, they began to sort through the photographs, each image a window into a past that now felt like another life. In every picture, David's artistic eye had captured moments of genuine joy, of friendship uncomplicated by money or power. "He was really good," Tommy said proudly, pointing to a particularly striking image of Sarah laughing in Central Park. "Mom says he could see the truth in people, even when they couldn't see it themselves." Pierce looked at the boy, David's son, Sarah's child, a living bridge between past and present. "Your father was the bravest person I ever knew," he said, quietly. "And now, because of him, we all have a chance to be brave too." The conference room was packed with families, their faces a mix of anger, fear, and cautious hope. Pierce stood at the front, his usual corporate presentation replaced by a simple truth: "I'm here to listen, to learn, and to make things right." Maria Ramirez was the first to speak, her voice thick with emotion as she held up a photo of her daughter. "Anna was 8 years old. She loved butterflies and wanted to be a doctor. Now she's gone, and all your money, all your promises can't bring her back." The room fell silent. Pierce didn't try to defend himself or his company. Instead, he walked over to Mrs. Ramirez, knelt beside her chair, and looked at Anna's photograph. "Tell me about her," he said softly. "Tell me everything." For the next 4 hours, Pierce listened to story after story. Families who had lost homes, children who had developed mysterious illnesses. elderly residents forced to move from neighborhoods they'd lived in for generations. Each story was a testament to the human cost of corporate greed. Sarah moved through the room, offering comfort, taking notes, ensuring that every voice was heard. She had become a bridge between Pierce's world and these families, her own experience lending authenticity to the company's promises of restitution. As the meeting drew to a close, an elderly man named George Washington stood up. He had lived in one of the affected neighborhoods for over 50 years. "Mr. Pierce," he said, his voice carrying the weight of decades, "your friend, the photographer, he used to come around taking pictures, talking to people. He cared about our stories. Now I see that same care in your eyes. Maybe some good can come from all this pain." After the families left, Pierce remained in the conference room, staring at the wall of photographs that Sarah and Tommy had helped arrange. David's images of the neighborhoods before the development project began. Each picture told a story of community, of lives intertwined, of something precious that had been lost in the name of progress. Eleanor entered, her laptop under her arm. "Conway's statement is ready," she said. "He's named names, provided dates, documents. It goes beyond Marcus, beyond even our company. Half of the city's development projects from the past decade are implicated." Pierce nodded, still looking at the photographs. "Release it all, every document, every name, every detail. No more secrets." "The board won't like that," Eleanor warned. "They're already talking about removing you as CEO." "Let them," Pierce replied. "This is more important than my position or the company's reputation. David knew that, now I do too." A commotion outside drew their attention. Through the glass walls, they could see Tommy running down the hallway, waving a piece of paper. He burst into the conference room, out of breath but excited. "Mom, Uncle Alex, look what I found in Dad's old camera bag." He thrust the paper forward. A letter written in David's distinctive handwriting, dated the day before his accident. Sarah arrived moments later, having followed her son from Pierce's office. They gathered around as Tommy read the letter, aloud. "To whoever finds this, something big is about to happen. I've discovered things that will change everything. If you're reading this, and I'm not there to explain, look in the old Nikon camera in my studio, the one with the broken lens. The truth is there, waiting to be seen. But remember this, truth without compassion is just another form of violence. Whatever you find, use it to heal, not to destroy. Love always, David." Eleanor was already on her phone, calling the studio's current owner. Sarah sat down heavily, her hand finding Pierce's arm for support. Tommy looked between the adults, understanding that his father had left them one final mystery to solve. "The camera," Pierce said slowly. "It wasn't in the safety deposit box. It wasn't in the studio when we were there. Where could it be?" Sarah's eyes widened. "The storage unit," she whispered. "David's personal things, the ones I couldn't bear to go through after. I put them in storage. The camera might be there." "Can we go now?" Tommy asked eagerly. "Please, Mom." Pierce checked his watch. The board meeting was scheduled for late afternoon, but suddenly corporate politics seemed insignificant compared to this new discovery. "My driver can take us," he offered. "All of us." As they rode through the city streets, Pierce thought about David's words. Truth without compassion is just another form of violence. He had spent weeks exposing corruption, facing the consequences of past actions. But perhaps there was more to justice than just revealing wrongdoing. He looked at Tommy, enthusiastically pointing out landmarks to Eleanor, and Sarah, her face a mix of anticipation and apprehension. Whatever they found in that camera, whatever final truth David had left for them, Pierce knew that healing, real healing, would require more than just money and legal settlements. The storage facility loomed ahead, a concrete monument to things left behind, memories stored away, truths waiting to be discovered. As they pulled into the parking lot, Pierce felt a familiar flutter of anticipation in his chest. It was the same feeling he'd had as a young man watching David prepare to take a photograph, knowing that something extraordinary was about to be revealed through his lens. "Ready?" Sarah asked, holding up the storage unit key. Pierce looked at their small group. This unlikely family brought together by loss, truth, and the possibility of redemption. "Ready," he replied. "Whatever we find in there, we face it together." The tower. Storage unit door groaned open, revealing stacks of boxes and photography equipment covered in years of dust. The afternoon light filtered through a small window, creating an almost ethereal atmosphere among David's preserved belongings. Sarah stood frozen in the doorway, overwhelmed by the sight of her past laid out before her. Tommy squeezed past her, his young eyes scanning the room with eager curiosity. Eleanor immediately began documenting everything with her phone's camera, while Pierce remained respectfully behind Sarah, offering silent support. His cameras would be in the back, Sarah said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. He always kept his most precious equipment in special cases. They moved through the unit carefully, each step stirring memories along with dust. Tommy discovered a box of old photographs, while Eleanor found folders of negatives carefully labeled with dates and locations. "Here," Pierce called out suddenly, pointing to a black case partially hidden behind a tripod stand. "Could this be it?" Sarah knelt beside him, her hands trembling as she reached for the case. "This is the one. He always carried this Nikon, said it was his lucky camera." The case was locked, but Sarah remembered where David kept the key on a chain around his neck. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small velvet bag. I couldn't let them bury him with it," she explained, her voice catching. It felt wrong somehow. The key turned smoothly in the lock and the case opened with a soft click. Inside, nestled in worn velvet, lay David's favorite camera, its broken lens still attached. Tommy moved closer, his eyes wide with wonder. "That was Dad's camera?" "More than just a camera," Eleanor explained, kneeling beside her nephew. "This was his favorite tool, the one he used for his most important work." Pierce watched as Sarah carefully lifted the camera from its case. "The letter said to look inside it," he reminded them gently. Whatever final truth David wanted to share, it must be hidden within the camera itself. Sarah turned the camera over in her hands, examining it with the familiarity of someone who had watched its owner work countless times. "The film compartment," she said suddenly. "David used to hide spare memory cards there, behind the film plate." With practiced movements, she opened the compartment. A small metallic object fell into her palm, a memory card, sealed in a protective case with a note attached. "The truth sees everything." Eleanor quickly pulled out her laptop, hands shaking slightly as she inserted the memory card. They gathered around the screen, holding their breath as the files loaded. What appeared made them all gasp. The first image showed Marcus Chen in David's studio, but it wasn't just a simple portrait. In the background, clearly visible on David's computer screen, was an email chain revealing the full scope of the environmental cover-up. David had managed to photograph Marcus during what the man thought was a routine portrait session, capturing evidence of his corruption without his knowledge. But it was the second set of images that truly shocked them. They showed Pierce himself in his office 12 years ago, signing documents. The angles of the shots taken through the office window from the building across the street showed both the papers and Pierce's face clearly. "I remember that day," Pierce said, his voice hollow. "I was signing what Marcus told me were routine property acquisitions. I never read them closely. I trusted him completely." Sarah zoomed in on one of the images. "Look at Marcus's face in the reflection. He's smiling, but it's not a normal smile. He knew exactly what he was making you sign." The next series of photographs documented a pattern of deception spanning years. Marcus manipulating documents, meeting with corrupt officials, orchestrating the systematic exploitation of vulnerable communities. David had compiled a comprehensive visual record of the corruption, all without anyone realizing. But it was the final photograph that brought tears to their eyes. It showed Sarah in the doctor's office, her hand resting on her stomach, a small smile on her face. The date stamp showed it was taken the day before David's accident. "He knew," Sarah whispered, touching the screen gently. "He knew about Tommy, and he was making sure there would be evidence of everything. He was protecting us." Tommy stared at the image of his mother, of the day when his existence was first documented by his father's lens. Dad was a hero, he said firmly. He knew the truth would come out someday. Eleanor was already copying the files, her journalist instincts taking over. This isn't just evidence against Marcus. This is the whole story, documented from beginning to end. David created a visual timeline of the corruption, proving that Pierce was being manipulated, while showing exactly how Marcus orchestrated everything. Pierce sat heavily on a nearby box, the weight of the revelation pressing down on him. He was protecting me too, he realized. These photos don't just expose the corruption, they prove I was being deceived. David knew that someday I would need to understand what really happened, that I would need to prove my innocence. Sarah placed a hand on his shoulder. He never lost faith in you, Alex. Even when you were too busy to see him that last day, he was working to protect you. The storage unit fell silent as they all absorbed the magnitude of what David had left them. His final photographs weren't just evidence, they were a message. Of faith, of trust, of belief in the power of truth to heal even the deepest wounds. Tommy picked up the camera, holding it carefully. Can we restore it, he asked. The broken lens, can we fix it? Eleanor smiled at her nephew. The lens might be broken, sweetheart, but the truth it captured is perfectly clear. Your father made sure of that. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows through the storage unit window, they carefully packed up the camera and the precious memory card. David's last message to them wasn't just about exposing corruption. It was about faith in the power of truth to bring healing, and about the importance of protecting those we love even when we're no longer there to do it ourselves. Pierce looked at the small family group, Sarah, Tommy and Eleanor, and felt a deep sense of purpose. David had trusted him to do the right thing when he finally saw the truth. Now, with these final photographs, he could do more than just make things right. He could honor his friend's memory by protecting the people David had loved most in the world. The boardroom at Pierce Enterprises hummed with tension as Alex Pierce stood before the assembled directors, his tablet connected to the large display screen behind him. Sarah, Eleanor and Tommy sat quietly in the corner, their presence drawing curious glances from the board members. Ladies and gentlemen, Pierce began, his voice steady and clear. 12 years ago I made a mistake. I trusted the wrong person and failed to see what was happening in my own company. Today I'm going to show you exactly what that mistake cost us, and more importantly, how we're going to make it right. The screen came to life with David's photographs, each image telling part of the story of corruption and deceit. The board members shifted uncomfortably in their seats as the evidence mounted. Marcus Chen's manipulation, the falsified documents, the systematic exploitation of vulnerable communities. As you can see, Pierce continued, while I was focused on expansion and profit, Marcus Chen was orchestrating an elaborate scheme of environmental fraud and document forgery. But here's what you need to understand. This evidence doesn't just expose corruption. It provides us with a roadmap for redemption. He clicked to the next slide, showing his comprehensive plan for community restoration and corporate reform. We're not just going to pay settlements and issue apologies. We're going to rebuild these communities, clean up the contamination, and establish a foundation dedicated to environmental justice and corporate accountability. One of the older board members, Jenkins, leaned forward. The costs would be astronomical. The shareholders deserve to know they're investing in a company that values truth and justice over profit, Pierce interrupted. David Russell gave his life to expose this truth. We owe it to him, to these communities, and to ourselves to do what's right. Sarah stood up then, walking to stand beside Pierce. If I may, she said, her quiet voice commanding attention, I'd like to show you something else. She gestured to Tommy, who brought forward a large portfolio. These are photographs my late husband took of the communities before the development project began, she explained, spreading the images across the conference table. Real people, real lives, real communities that were destroyed. But look at this. She laid out a second set of photographs, recent images of the same locations, showing the effects of contamination and neglect. This is our legacy unless we choose to change it. The boardroom was silent as the directors examined the photographs. Eleanor added her own documentation, interviews with affected families, medical reports, environmental studies that confirmed the extent of the damage. Finally, Harrison, the head of the board, spoke up. "What exactly are you proposing, Alex?" Pierce touched his tablet, bringing up a new presentation. "A complete corporate restructuring. We create a new division focused entirely on environmental restoration and community development. We use our resources and expertise to fix what we broke, and we do it under the guidance of people who understand both the corporate world and the human cost of corporate greed." He gestured to Sarah. Sarah Matthews will head the Community Outreach Program. Her experience, both as a victim of our actions and as someone who's been working with affected families, makes her uniquely qualified. Eleanor stepped forward. "I'll lead the Transparency Initiative, ensuring that every step of the process is documented and made public. No more secrets, no more cover-ups." "And the cost?" Jenkins pressed. "Initially about 40% of our liquid assets," Pierce replied calmly. "Yes, it's substantial. Yes, our stock price will take a hit. But we're not just paying for past mistakes, we're investing in our future, a future based on integrity, transparency, and genuine community partnership." Tommy, who had been quietly watching from the corner, suddenly spoke up. "My dad believed in the truth," he said, his young voice clear and strong. "He believed it could change things, make them better. He was right." The board members looked at the boy, this child who represented both the human cost of their actions and the possibility of redemption. Something shifted in the room, a collective understanding that this was about more than money and shareholders. Harrison stood slowly. "I move that we accept Mr. Pierce's proposal in full. All in favor?" Hands raised around the table, some quickly, others with more hesitation, but in the end the vote was unanimous. As the board members filed out, Pierce felt a weight lift from his shoulders. He turned to find Tommy examining David's camera, which they had brought from the storage unit. "What are you thinking?" he asked the boy. Tommy looked up, his expression serious. "Dad's camera showed the truth about the past. Maybe now it can show the truth about the future too, how we're fixing things, making them better." Sarah smiled, wrapping an arm around her son. "That's a wonderful idea. Your father would love that." Eleanor was already making notes on her laptop. "We could document the entire restoration process, show the transformation of these communities, not just through statistics and reports, but through the same kind of powerful images David used to expose the truth." Pierce looked at them. This unlikely family brought together by tragedy but united by purpose. David's last photographs had done more than expose corruption. They had created a path to redemption, not just for Pierce, but for everyone touched by this story. "David always said that a photograph doesn't just capture a moment," Sarah said. "Softly, it captures a possibility. He showed us what went wrong. Now it's our turn to show what can go right." As the afternoon sun streamed through the boardroom windows, they began planning their next steps. The road ahead would be challenging, but they faced it together, guided by the truth David had preserved through his broken lens, a truth that had finally set them all free. The first community meeting at the newly established Russell Foundation took place in what used to be an abandoned warehouse. Now, transformed with warm lighting, comfortable seating, and walls adorned with David's photographs, the space served as a symbol of the changes to come. Sarah stood at the podium, her natural warmth putting the gathered residents at ease. "We're not here to make empty promises," she began, her voice carrying to every corner of the room. "We're here to work with you, to listen to your needs, and to rebuild together." The crowd, a mix of families from affected neighborhoods, environmental activists, and local officials, listened intently as she outlined the Foundation's initial projects. Behind her, a slideshow displayed before and after images of similar restoration efforts, giving hope to what seemed possible. Tommy, sitting in the front row with Eleanor, couldn't help but feel proud of his mother. She had transformed from the quiet flower shop owner into a confident leader, channeling her years of personal struggle into meaningful action. He was filming everything with a small digital camera, a gift from Pierce, who understood the boy's desire to continue his father's legacy of documenting truth. Pierce sat quietly at the back of the room, wanting the focus to remain on the communities rather than himself. He watched as Sarah introduced the various team leaders, environmental experts, healthcare professionals, community organizers, each one chosen for their expertise and commitment to genuine change. The Russell Foundation isn't just about fixing past mistakes, Sarah continued, her voice growing stronger. It's about creating a new model for corporate responsibility and community partnership. Every decision, every project will be guided by a community board, ensuring that your voices are heard and your needs are met. A woman in the audience stood up, Maria Ramirez, who had lost her daughter to contamination-related illness. "How can we trust that this isn't just another corporate scheme?" she asked, her voice carrying years of pain and skepticism. Sarah didn't hesitate. "Because we've lived it too," she replied softly. "My late husband gave his life exposing the truth about what happened here. My son grows up without his father because he believed in doing what's right. We're not just corporate representatives. We're part of this community." Eleanor stepped forward then, her journalist's instincts recognizing the moment's importance. "We've established an independent oversight committee," she explained. "Every document, every decision, every dollar spent will be publicly accessible. No more secrets, no more hidden agendas." As the meeting continued, Pierce observed the subtle changes in the room. Initial skepticism gave way to cautious hope as residents began sharing their stories, their needs, their dreams for their communities. Each person who spoke added another layer to the Foundation's mission. During a break, Tommy approached Pierce with his camera. "I've been thinking," he said, with the serious expression he often wore when considering important matters. "Dad used his camera to show what was wrong. Maybe I can use mine to show what's becoming right." Pierce smiled, remembering similar conversations with David years ago. "That's a wonderful idea. What would you want to photograph first?" "The people," Tommy replied, without hesitation. "Not just the problems or the changes, but the people themselves. Dad always said a good photograph shows the truth in someone's eyes." Sarah joined them, her professional demeanor softening as she watched her son. "He's so much like his father," she said quietly to Pierce. "Not just in how he looks, but in how he sees the world." The afternoon sun streamed through the warehouse's renovated windows, casting long shadows across the floor. Residents gathered in small groups, sharing stories and suggestions, while Foundation team members took notes and offered support. It was more than just a meeting. It was the beginning of a healing process. Eleanor had set up a small exhibition of David's photographs along one wall, images that showed the communities in their prime before the development project began. Beside each historical photo was a space reserved for new images, waiting to document the transformation to come. "We need to remember where we started," she explained to a group of curious residents. "Both the good and the bad. It's all part of our story." As the meeting drew to a close, Sarah called everyone's attention once more. "This is just the beginning," she said, her voice full of quiet determination. "The road ahead won't be easy, and there will be challenges we haven't anticipated. But we're in this together, and together, we'll rebuild not just our neighborhoods, but our trust in what's possible." Pierce watched as people lingered afterward, forming connections, sharing contact information, beginning to believe that real change might finally be possible. He noticed Tommy moving through the crowd with his camera, capturing moments of hope and possibility, just as David once had. A small hand tugged at his sleeve. It was Ana Ramirez's younger sister, Sophia. "Mr. Pierce," she said shyly, "my Mama says you're trying to fix things. Is it true?" Pierce knelt down to her level, remembering what Sarah had said about being human first, CEO second. "Yes, Sophia. We're all trying to fix things together. Would you like to help?" The girl nodded, solemnly. "Anna always wanted to help people. Maybe I can help for her." In that moment, looking into the child's hopeful eyes, Pierce understood something David had known all along, that true redemption comes not from grand gestures or corporate initiatives, but from simple human connections, from choosing to see and acknowledge the truth in each person's story. Sarah's flower shop had become an unexpected hub for the foundation's community outreach efforts. The familiar scent of flowers mixed with the buzz of activity as volunteers coordinated projects, and residents dropped by with questions or concerns. She had hired additional help to manage the shop, allowing her to split her time between her original business and her new role at the foundation. On this particular morning, she was arranging a display of sunflowers when Tommy burst through the door, excitement evident on his face. "Mom, they're starting the cleanup at Henderson Park today. Can I go watch? I want to document everything." Sarah smiled at her son's enthusiasm. Over the past few weeks, he had thrown himself into photography with the same passion his father once had. "Of course, but remember what we talked about, safety first. Some of those areas are still contaminated." I know, Tommy replied, already checking his camera equipment. "Eleanor's coming too. She says it's important to document every step of the process." Pierce entered the shop then, looking more relaxed than Sarah had seen him in years. He had simplified his life dramatically, moving out of his penthouse into a modest apartment closer to the communities they were helping. The designer suits had been replaced by more casual attire, though he still carried himself with the same quiet confidence. "Ready for the big day?" he asked Tommy, who nodded enthusiastically. "I've got all my equipment ready, just like Dad used to carry." Tommy patted his camera bag proudly. The bell above the door chimed again as Eleanor arrived, accompanied by Jennifer Martinez, the environmental lawyer who had become an integral part of their team. "The first cleanup crew is arriving," Jennifer reported. "We've got news crews coming too. This is going to be a big story." Sarah gathered her things, preparing to close the shop for the morning. As she moved around the counter, she noticed Pierce studying one of the photographs Tommy had taken recently. A simple image of two children playing in the spray of a fire hydrant, their faces full of pure joy, despite the abandoned buildings in the background. "He has David's eye," Pierce said softly, "the ability to find hope in unexpected places." Sarah nodded, remembering countless conversations with David about the power of photography to reveal truth and inspire change. "He's healing too," she replied. "We all are." They made their way to Henderson Park, once a vibrant community gathering, space that had fallen into disrepair after the contamination was discovered. The cleanup crews were already at work, their yellow protective suits bright against the morning sky. Community volunteers had set up a refreshment station, and several families had gathered to witness the beginning of their neighborhood's restoration. Tommy moved through the scene with his camera, capturing not just the physical work being done, but the emotions on people's faces: hope, determination, cautious optimism. Eleanor followed, recording interviews with residents and workers, building a comprehensive record of the day. Pierce found himself standing with Maria Ramirez again, watching the activity. "My Anna used to love this park," Maria said quietly. "She would have been happy to see it coming back to life." "We're going to create a memorial garden," Pierce told her, "a place where children can learn about environmental stewardship and community activism. If you're willing, we'd like to name it after Anna." Maria's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded. She would have liked that. She always said every flower had a story to tell. Sarah overheard their conversation and was struck by how much Pierce had changed. The corporate executive who once signed documents without reading them had become someone who understood the power of personal connections and meaningful gestures. As the morning progressed, more residents arrived to help or simply to witness the change beginning in their community. Tommy captured it all: the removal of contaminated soil, the planning discussions for new playground equipment, the impromptu community meeting that formed under a large oak tree. Jennifer gathered everyone for an update on the cleanup timeline. "This is just the first step," she explained. "The full restoration will take time, but we're committed to doing it right. Every decision will be made with community input, and every step will be documented for full transparency." Eleanor added, "We're creating an online platform where you can track the progress, share your stories, and participate in planning discussions. Your voices matter in this process." Sarah watched as Pierce joined a group of children who were drawing pictures of what they wanted their new park to look like. He sat cross-legged on the ground, listening intently to their ideas, asking questions, treating each suggestion with genuine consideration. Tommy approached her, showing her the photos he'd taken. "Look, Mum," he said excitedly, "I got one just like Dad used to take, showing someone's true self." The image on his camera screen showed Pierce listening to the children, his face open and engaged, all traces of his former corporate mask gone. It was a moment of genuine connection, captured perfectly through the lens of David's son. "Your father would be so proud," Sarah said, hugging Tommy close. "Not just of your photography, but of who you're becoming." As the sun climbed higher, the work continued. What had begun as a cleanup project was transforming into something more. A community coming together, healing old wounds, building new connections. Sarah looked around at the scene. Eleanor documenting everything, Jennifer coordinating with the cleanup crews, Pierce working with the community, and Tommy capturing it all through his lens. David's last photographs had exposed the truth about the past, but now his son was documenting the truth about the future. A future built on transparency, accountability, and the simple power of people choosing to do what's right. The autumn air carried a crisp chill as Pierce walked through the partially renovated Henderson Park. 3 months into the restoration project, progress was visible everywhere. New trees planted, contaminated soil removed, construction crews laying the foundation for Anna's memorial garden. But today his mind was troubled by the news Eleanor had brought to their morning meeting. "Marcus Chen is trying to make a deal with the prosecutors," she had explained, spreading documents across the conference table. "He's offering to implicate other corporate executives in exchange for leniency, including you, Alex." Now watching a group of volunteers painting new playground equipment, Pierce wrestled with the implications. Marcus's attempts to manipulate the situation weren't surprising, but they added a new layer of complexity to their already challenging work. Sarah found him standing by the old oak tree, its leaves turning golden in the autumn light. "Eleanor told me about Marcus," she said softly. "How are you holding up?" "I keep thinking about what David would do," Pierce replied, his eyes on the bustling activity around them. He always knew how to find the truth in complicated situations. "Dad believed in doing what's right even when it's hard," Tommy's voice came from behind them. He had approached quietly, camera in hand as usual. Over the past months, his photography had evolved, capturing not just the physical transformation of the communities, but the emotional journey of everyone involved. Sarah watched her son adjust his camera settings with practiced ease. "He's right," she said to Pierce. "David never took the easy path when the right path was clear." Their conversation was interrupted by Jennifer Martinez's arrival. "We've got another situation," she announced, tablet in hand. The cleanup at the Wilson Street site revealed more extensive contamination than we initially thought. The cost for proper remediation will be significantly higher than budgeted. Pierce ran a hand through his hair, a gesture that had become familiar during challenging moments. "How much higher?" "Nearly double. And that's just for Wilson Street. If we find similar issues at other sites, we'll find a way," Pierce said firmly. "We promised these communities we would do this right, no matter the cost." Tommy had been quietly taking pictures during their discussion. "Look at this," he said suddenly, showing them his camera's display. The image showed a young girl playing with a pinwheel near the construction site, her reflection captured in a puddle that mirrored the half-built playground behind her. The contrast between the old and new, the hope and challenge was striking. "That's Rachel Thompson's daughter," Sarah noted. "They lived closest to the contaminated area. Rachel's been one of our strongest community advocates, even while dealing with her daughter's health issues." Pierce studied the photograph thoughtfully. "Maybe that's what we need to remember, why we're doing this. It's not about budgets or legal challenges. It's about people, about giving them back what was taken." Eleanor joined them, laptop under her arm. "Speaking of giving back, the first families are ready to move back into their renovated homes on Cedar Avenue. The environmental tests all came back clean, and the structural improvements are complete." This was the news they needed, a reminder that their efforts were bearing fruit. The Cedar Avenue project had been their pilot program, a model for how they plan to restore other affected areas. "Have you seen the community garden they've started?" Tommy asked excitedly. "Mrs. Ramirez is teaching the kids about growing vegetables. She says Anna would have loved it." Sarah smiled at her son's enthusiasm. "Maybe we should document the first families moving back in, show people that real progress is happening despite the challenges." "Already planned," Eleanor confirmed. "We're doing a small ceremony tomorrow, low-key, focused on the families rather than the foundation. Tommy, would you like to be our official photographer?" The boy's face lit up. "Really? You mean it?" Pierce watched the interaction with a warm smile. In the months since they'd started this work, Tommy had become more than just David's son carrying on his legacy. He'd developed his own unique voice as a photographer, combining his father's eye for truth with a child's ability to find joy in unexpected places. "Just remember what we talked about," Sarah reminded her son. "Sometimes the most important moments are the quiet ones." As if to illustrate her point, Tommy raised his camera and captured Pierce's contemplative expression as he looked out over the park. The setting sun caught the silver in his hair, and something in his face spoke of both weariness and determination. "You know," Tommy said, reviewing the image, "Dad used to say that every person has two stories, the one they show the world and the one they carry inside. The trick is catching the moment when both stories show up in their eyes." The wisdom in the boy's words struck them all silent for a moment. Then Sarah laughed softly. "When did you get so philosophical?" "I found Dad's old journals in the storage unit," Tommy admitted. "He wrote about his thoughts on photography, on truth, on life. Reading them helps me understand him better." Pierce felt a familiar ache in his chest, the bittersweet mixture of loss and gratitude that often accompanied memories of David. But there was something else too, a growing sense of purpose, of rightness in what they were doing. "Your father would be proud of you," he told Tommy. "Not just for your photography, but for understanding what it means to use it for something important." As the day's light faded, they watched the volunteers finishing their work, the community members gathering for an impromptu potluck dinner, the children playing on the parts of the playground that were already complete. Despite Marcus's threats and the new financial challenges, there was an undeniable sense of progress, of healing beginning to take root. The next morning dawned clear and bright, perfect weather for the Cedar Avenue homecoming. Sarah's flower shop had provided arrangements for each returning family, and volunteers had spent days helping them prepare for the move back into their restored homes. Pierce arrived early, carrying boxes alongside other volunteers. He'd learned over the past months that the most meaningful connections often happened during these simple moments of shared work. As he helped the Martinez family arrange furniture in their renovated living room, Mrs. Martinez touched his arm, gently. "You know," she said, "when all this started, I didn't trust you. I thought this was just another corporate show, but now I see you're really here doing the work with us." Before Pierce could respond, Tommy's camera clicked, capturing the moment. The boy had developed an uncanny ability to anticipate meaningful exchanges just as his father had. "Got it," Tommy said, showing them the image. "Mrs. Martinez, you look just like my mom does when she's telling an important truth." The woman laughed, but her eyes were warm as she looked at the photograph. "Your father had the same gift, Pequeño. He could see into people's hearts." The morning progressed as more families arrived, each return marking another step in the community's healing. Eleanor coordinated with local media, ensuring the story was told properly, while Jennifer supervised final environmental testing to reassure everyone about their home's safety. Sarah had transformed the street into a celebration of renewal. Besides her flower arrangements, there were welcome baskets, handmade signs, and children's artwork decorating each porch. The atmosphere was festive but intimate, focusing on the personal significance of each family's return. "This is exactly what we needed," Eleanor commented, watching Tommy photograph a group of children exploring their new playground. "Real progress, real people, real hope." Pierce nodded, but his expression was thoughtful. "We still have challenges ahead. Marcus's legal maneuvering, the increased cleanup costs." "But we also have this," Sarah interrupted, gesturing to the scene around them. "Community, truth, purpose. Those are stronger than any challenges Marcus can throw at us." As if to emphasize her point, Rachel Thompson approached them, her daughter Emily clutching the pinwheel from yesterday's photograph. "We've been talking," Rachel said, indicating a group of community members gathered nearby. "We want to help with the Wilson Street cleanup." "Help?" Jennifer asked, joining the conversation. "How?" "Many of us have skills: construction, landscaping, project management. We can volunteer time and expertise. It won't solve all the budget issues, but it will help. More importantly, it lets us be part of rebuilding our own community." Pierce was struck by the offer. This was something David had understood and tried to show through his photographs, that community wasn't just about place, but about people coming together, supporting each other, building something stronger than their individual parts. Tommy had been quietly documenting the conversation, but now he spoke up. "It's like what Dad wrote in his journal. He said true change happens when people stop seeing themselves as victims and start seeing themselves as builders." Eleanor smiled at her nephew. "Your father was a wise man." "He was," Sarah agreed, watching her son move through the crowd, capturing moments of joy, determination, and hope. And his wisdom lives on in unexpected ways. The day continued, each hour bringing new moments of connection and progress. Pierce found himself involved in impromptu planning sessions with community members, their practical knowledge adding valuable insights to the restoration plans. As evening approached, Tommy gathered everyone for a group photograph in front of the restored homes. "Wait," he called out, adjusting his position. "The light's not quite right." Sarah watched her son with pride. "He's becoming quite the perfectionist with his camera." "Just like his father," Eleanor added softly. Finally, satisfied with the setup, Tommy took the picture, capturing not just the physical restoration of the homes, but the spirit of community that had emerged from their shared challenges. Later, as they reviewed the day's photographs in Sarah's flower shop, Pierce was struck by how much had changed. The images showed more than just renovated buildings and cleaned-up streets. They showed healing, not just of places, but of people. "You know what this reminds me of?" Tommy said, pointing to one particularly moving photograph of neighbors, embracing. "Those first pictures Dad took, the ones that showed what was wrong, but these show what's becoming right." Sarah hugged her son close. "That's exactly what they show, sweetheart." Pierce looked at them, this mother and son who had helped him find his way back to what mattered most. Despite Marcus's threats and the ongoing challenges, he felt more certain than ever about their path forward. "David once told me that a photograph doesn't just capture a moment," he said. "It captures a possibility. These images don't just show what we've done. They show what's possible when people choose to face the truth and work together to make things right." As night fell over Cedar Avenue, the sounds of families settling into their restored homes filled the air. It wasn't a perfect ending. There were still challenges to face, work to be done, trust to be rebuilt. But it was a beginning, one captured forever through the lens of David's son, showing the world that even the deepest wounds could heal when truth and compassion worked together.